Verde luz de monte y mar, isla bella de coral. Si me ausento de tus playas rumorosas, si me alejo de tus palmas silenciosas, quiero volver a sentir tu tibia arena, a dormir en tus riberas, isla mía, flor cautiva, para ti quiero tener libre tu suelo, sola tu estrella, isla doncella, quiero tener.
Verde luz, green light. If I'm distant from your murmuring beaches, I long to return. I long to return. Verde luz describes the beauty of Puerto Rico. Mi Puerto Rico. Borinquen. For thousands of years, a lush paradise inhabited by Taino farmers and fishermen. Historians estimate that there were anywhere from 20,000 to 500,000 Tainos when the Spanish landed in 1508. To finance its exploration into the New World, Spain needed gold. In their quest, they forced indigenous peoples into slavery, but the Tainos labored in vain. Within decades, thousands of Tainos died from forced labor, from diseases brought by the Spaniards, and during periodic uprisings against the Spanish. By 1582, only a few hundred Tainos remained, hidden in the central highlands of an island the Spanish renamed Puerto Rico, rich port. Today, remains of Taino culture can be found in the ruins of villages, the names of dozens of towns, and in thousands of words. Among them, huracan, hurricane. With no gold to be found, the Spanish began to cultivate and refine sugar. They joined the rest of Europe and the United States in the triangle trade, exchanging goods for African slaves to replace Taino laborers. Trade in the 1800s brought an increased appetite for sugar and coffee to Europe. The need for workers and merchants on the island also increased. The island's population grew due to immigration and intermarriage. Puerto Ricans adopted Spanish dress, customs, and religion, and class distinctions between the elite, the mestizos, and the Africans developed. By the 1890s, Puerto Rico had become an autonomous province of Spain. They had their own constitution, a House of Representatives, an appointed governor, and the right to free commerce. Intellectuals had emerged to express a distinct Puerto Rican vision. Educator and abolitionist Ramón Emeterio Betances authored Los 10 Mandamientos, the 10 Commandments.
Abolición de la esclavitud.
Abolition of slavery.
Libertad de la palabra.
Freedom of speech.
Derecho de reunión.
The right to assembly.
Derecho a elegir nuestras autoridades.
The right to choose our leaders.
What was it that drove one of the oldest democracies on Earth to possess what some are now calling one of the oldest colonies on Earth?
In the late 1800s, European nations felt increasing pressure to guide their lesser developed colonies into the 20th century. But the United States had their own plans for the Western Hemisphere. They recognized that the Caribbean was the gateway to Latin America, and Puerto Rico's strategic location was key to controlling that gateway. The only obstacle to United States plans for expansion was Spain's grip on the region. While anchored in Havana's harbor, the USS Maine exploded and sank. the United States seized the opportunity to declare war on Spain. The Spanish-American War began in May of 1898 and ended in victory for the United States 115 days later. Spain granted independence to Cuba. Puerto Rico and the Philippines became U.S. territories. Before being transferred from one country to the other, Puerto Rico would have only a few precious days of freedom. During that time, sociologist Eugenio María de Hostos wrote these words in his diary.
Yesterday, I spent the whole day with my binoculars in my hands. I saw everything. I looked and looked again. I admired it, blessed it, and felt it. I felt it for her beauty and her misfortune. I thought how noble it would have been to see her free by her own effort, and how sad and overwhelming and shameful to see her go from owner to owner without ever being her own master, and to see her pass from sovereignty to sovereignty without ever ruling herself.
That we are the only Puerto Ricans on the face of the earth. This does not repeat itself. That we have to take care of ourselves. Because if we disappear from the face of the earth, there will never be another Puerto Rican. And just as we had indigenous people here who were wiped out by some of our ancestors, we're wiping ourselves out with the way that we depend too much on the United States to help us.
I've introduced you to my Isla del Encanto, mi Puerto Rico. With me, you've met los puertorriqueños in my childhood neighborhood in the South Bronx and across the island. As for me, it's been an incredible journey back home to the land where my parents and grandparents came from, to the place I fell in love with even before I stepped on its soil.
Años de historia, forjando la patria nuestra, abriendo el surco y sembrando semilla de independencia. Nuestro pueblo está de pie y luchando con conciencia. Nuestro pueblo está de pie y luchando con conciencia. Yo quiero que mi Borinquen sea libre y soberana. Yo quiero que mi Borinquen sea libre y soberana. Porque la estrella de mi bandera no cabe en la americana. Porque la estrella de mi bandera no cabe en la americana. Está llegando el momento de la decisión suprema. Nuestra patria reverdece, de luz el alma se llena. Nuestro pueblo canta y baila al ritmo de bomba y plena. Nuestro pueblo canta y baila al ritmo de bomba y plena. Yo quiero que mi Borinquen sea libre y soberano. ¡Vamos! Yo quiero que mi Borinquen sea libre y soberano. Porque la estrella de mi bandera no cabe en la americana. Porque la estrella de mi bandera